The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
And
thegorillaposition.com, telling the stories of pro wrestling storytellers.
Welcome to another episode of Turnbuckle Talk, powered by thegorillaposition.com and a proud part of the Roar Network. And we are presented by the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. We're sponsored by collarandelbowbrand.com, where you can get 10% off when you use promo code JKPodcast at the checkout. We are in partnership with HypeCityVapors.com, where you can get 15% off all your e-juice for your vape by using promo code JKPodcast. And please welcome our newest sponsor, Silly Rabbit Vape Shop, located in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Mention Turnbuckle Talk when you go into the store for a discount on all your vape juice and hardware. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TB Talk Pod. Make sure you listen to us on Podbean, iTunes, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and all those other podcatchers out there. As always, I'm Carl Carafel.
And I'm Big Joe. And this week, we are also blessed by the presence of host from the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, Michael Jargo. Welcome back, sir.
I'm on the air with my two favorite Canadians on Canada Day. I'm so excited. And I actually don't have to go to work tonight, which makes it even freaking better. Oh, Canada, one day you will be a state.
No, that's not going to happen. We are proud to be not part of the United States.
As well, you should be.
Yes.
Well, the way that our government is, I sometimes wouldn't mind being part of the United States.
Yeah,
Bite your tongue.
Yeah, we do have a bit
Bite your tongue.
We do have a bit of a fool running the country here, but I digress. All right, guys, so another week has come and gone in the world of professional wrestling here. Now, a bit of time has passed since this happened, but I figured we'd come back on here and talk about this. And since we have Jargo here this week, I figured it'd be a good opportunity to, because Stomping Grounds that happened recently, for those of you following me on social media are well aware that I did not watch that show. And thankfully, I actually had the chance to sit down and watch me some Wrestle Circus for the first time. And guys, I really enjoyed it. And it was highlighted by Scorpio Sky versus Tessa Blanchard in a really awesome match. And another really cool thing that I dig what they did with this show was the use of the intermission halfway through. Really, really like that approach. So what would you think on the whole use of intermission? Carl, what's your opinion on that?
Intermissions are an amazing thing. It's something that's been done for a very, very long time. Even taking a look back, WWE days, maybe, 2-3 years ago, the Divas, the piss break match. They were the opportunity for you to go and make yourself a sandwich. I mean, you could even cook yourself a whole chicken before, the Divas were finally done with their bull crap, and then you were able to watch, the wrestling again. Yeah. Definitely times have changed when it comes to the female wrestling in the WWE, but it's like a high-class type of independent show. Every independent show that I've ever been to, there's always been an intermission, and I think that is phenomenal.
I really enjoy intermission, man. They've been done it in New Japan basically forever. And when people are first asking me, like, for the G1 coming up, there'll be an intermission for most of these shows. And what you'll see is you'll have all the undercard stuff before intermission, and then you'll have all the tournament matches after intermission. So when people are asking me, like, Jargo, how do you watch, 20 shows in 25 days? That's what you do. You just start after the intermission, so that way you catch everything that's important. I much prefer when everything comes to a stop, like in between bands, so I can go and maybe hit the bathroom, make myself a sandwich, whatever, like bands have that luxury. Wrestling always had that luxury. I think it's just like really the evolution of TV that we just kind of did away with intermissions. And I'm right with you. I'd love to see it come back.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, given that, we're possibly seeing some changes with WWE television and whatnot. And I mean, even with, you had mentioned this on your show, Jargo, that Wrestle Kingdom is going to be 2 days, correct now?
Yeah. So it's going to be the 4th and 5th. There's not going to be a New Year's Dash in 2020.
Yeah. And there's even a rumor that WrestleMania could become more than a one-day event there. So, I think that, I can already see some head shaking going on with 2 days of WrestleMania. I mean, oh man, that's going to be just painful. Hopefully not. But, there's an opportunity to use that intermission break just so that, there's no opportunity. There shouldn't be this thing, like Carl said, the piss break match. It's sad that there has to be something like that. It's what, even just for the bathroom, it's like, well, I got to get up to do something. It's like, okay, so what match do I want to miss so that I can go get some relief?
But now hasn't that kind of become the tag team division now? Like they started pushing the women's division, and now the tag team division is the piss break match.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's either the tag team or, unfortunately, I mean, these guys are phenomenal, but unfortunately, the 205 Live stuff has really become that for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll see what comes with that. Wrestle Circus, again, on that show, there's some great stuff there. Even... as I mentioned, I've become a fan of this guy, Orange Cassidy, getting there doing his thing. I'm still digging that. I know both of you guys don't like him. I don't care. I still like me some Orange Cassidy. So,
I ain't gonna fight you. I just wish somebody would break his damn sunglasses.
It'll happen at some point. It's just a matter of who it was going to be.
Like, how has nobody thought of this?
I know, right?
Just break his damn glasses.
Yeah. Well, in the background, actually, Monday Night Raw is happening as we're recording the program this week. I see that there's something kind of distasteful happening, so we're just going to pretend like that's not happening because Lacey Evans is in the ring at the moment. So let's actually talk about the kind of the main event for the episode here, Fyter Fest, AEW. This show, there's some good, I think, and some bad to go along with this, guys. What did you think, kind of just in general, before we get into the details?
Go ahead, Carl.
Myself, I've been working nonstop for the last 4.5 days with a Putin Fest. If you guys do not know what that is, go and look it up. Poutine. We had this huge festival going on here for 4 days, so I have not had an opportunity to actually sit down and watch the entire show, but I was graciously given a little highlight package, and from what I saw, I'm okay with most of it. There are some things that I was kind of going, what the hell is this? But for the majority, I from what I could see, it looks like it was a very decent show.
And as another Canadian, I just have to say something that it's pronounced poutine. The way you said it, I almost felt like we were, it almost sounded like the Russian version, or it sounded like you said Putin.
I was going to say, man, we have Putin Fest in the United States. It's called CNN. They're talking about it nonstop.
Actually, I'm going to correct you. You need to go and do your research. It is not poutine. There is no teen. It is Putin. Either Putin or Putin.
Yeah,
one or the other.
I know, and I'm French, and I should know that, yeah.
Vladimir.
Yeah.
Right, Vladimir. We had a Vlad Fest.
Yeah.
Go to Vlad Fest.
Vlad Fest. Oh, boy.
You're going to have, like, freaking emo kids dressed as Dracula showing up, thinking that it's like a vampire convention.
Well, let's break through this card here, guys. Let's start off on the pre-show, or as they refer to it as the buy-in. I like that, using it of that term, because the pre-show thing has kind of been... I don't know. It's almost kind of a frowned upon term because the WWE pre-shows tend to kind of suck. So, I like the buy-in premise.
Well, I think I need to correct you on behalf of my favorite Huckleberry. The WWE doesn't have pre-shows. They have kickoff shows because there is absolutely a negative connotation to calling it a pre-show.
Yeah. I think kickoff, football.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. AEW absolutely has to figure out how to do these pre-shows. You and I were talking about this off the air.
All over
Joe.
the place, yeah.
There was nothing that happened on the pre-show, regardless of how good any of it might have been, that would sell you on the main card. And that's a bad pre-show.
Yeah.
This just felt like another half hour of the show that they called something else that didn't have Jim Ross on commentary.
Yeah. Well, there was something that I marked out on, but we'll get to that one. The first one, we had a tag team match with the Best Friends, which is of course Chucky T and Trent Beretta, versus SoCal Uncensored and Private Party. A really good, solid tag team match. Private Party, those guys are fun as hell to watch. I don't know about you guys.
Carl, if you haven't seen this match, I recommend that you check this match out because this match is almost perfect.
Yeah.
And I say that in the respect that you have SCU, who are legends that don't necessarily need a win.
No.
You have Private Party, who absolutely got themselves over in a loss. And you have the Best Friends, who win the match and thus advance to All Out to face off with another tag team for a bye inside of the tag team tournament. So like all three of these teams benefited inside of one match. It was almost perfect.
Wow. Yeah. I've been able to talk to some friends while I was at work who are wrestling fans as well, and they have all told me that yes, this match and another match, and I'll let you guys know which one that was when we get to it.
Yep.
But yes, I was told that this one I definitely needed to check out.
For the second match here on the buy-in, we had Ali versus probably one of my favorite female professional wrestlers at the moment, Leva Bates, in that librarian role. I pop pretty hard for that character. Me like he's some Leva Bates. I'll just say that right now. Yeah, she can shush me whenever she wants to.
You know what? I'm super happy that, you know, they did this whole, we want a librarian. We have a librarian gimmick that's available. Who wants this gimmick and blah, blah, blah. And they took both of them. Yep. Instead of just going, oh, no, we're just going to use the cute chick. No, they took both of them, and they're both the librarian. Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, you'll probably be hearing more about her from me, like, because this over on the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling podcast, Rick Vickery has his Shar. I have my librarian. Just saying.
Good old Blue Pants.
Yep.
This match was a little weird for me because Blue Pants wasn't supposed to be in this match.
No.
It was supposed to be Kylie Ray in this match. And it's so I'm not, it was, or no, I'm sorry. It was supposed to be Blue Pants versus Kylie Ray.
That's
and they
right.
took Kylie out and put Allie in. So I guess to me, the bigger question here is what are we doing with Allie? Because inside of Impact Wrestling, you had all of this backstory and you have the whole like Dark Bunny thing and people get it, but you can't bring any of that to AEW. So what the hell do you do with Allie?
Yeah, that's the confusing part for sure. And it kind of tells the story of this whole buy-in situation. It's like we're trying a bunch of things here, and like I said, talking to you earlier off air, Jargo, I think we're still in this kind of just testing and feeling out kind of phase. And if this was WWE, I would be heavily criticizing them for this stuff. But because everything is so new here, I'm willing to give them the pass for now because we're still feeling out the territory here. So I'm not going to be too quick to judge. There is a
pattern now between All In and Double or Nothing and Fyter Fest. They're 0 for 3 when it comes to a pre-show.
Yeah.
Just got to figure it out, you know?
Yeah, or just not do it.
Right. I mean, if you want to do like this stuff on a pre-show, that's fine. But you need to tease what the hell is going to be coming up on the main card. Like the whole idea is to get people who are watching this on YouTube to go out of their way to go to Bleacher Report Live, which is something that they've never heard of, go through a 2.5 minute process to sign up for a free account. And now they've got my email address and all this other crap to watch the main card, right? Like that's the idea. It's a free show, but you still got to register for it. you got to sell the main card, and they didn't do anything to sell the main card, regardless of whatever happened on the show.
And most notably, the last match for this buy-in here, we had Nakazawa versus Alex Jabali, which of course is CAO of the whole Fyter Fest thing here. And I mean, as interesting as a few of the kind of the spots in the match were, I don't think it was necessarily poorly executed per se, but I mean, it had no business. It should have been maybe just like a dark match. I don't think that it should have been recorded or televised or broadcasted whatsoever.
Yeah, if you wanted to put it out on the YouTube as like a YouTube exclusive, something like that, cool. But it had no business being on the broadcast.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with the first two matches, given what they were, but that one was definitely the oddball. I mean, not because that was fun to watch, but versus a non-wrestler,
and it was
strange.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
In that 10 minutes, you could have showed me 3 or 4 video packages for the three, kind of like a 3-headed main event that they had going on for this show to get me invested to actually watch the main card.
I would have preferred the whole pre-show just be video packages. I'd be perfectly fine with that. What do you think, Carl? What's your take on the pre-show kind of situation?
Well, first, I want to touch on that third matchup. First, who is that person? And second, why is he even inside of a wrestling ring at this point?
That's a great question. That's a great question, and it was not explained.
Right?
It was not. I could explain it to you, but they did not explain it on the broadcast.
Bingo.
Alex J. Bailey is the CEO of CEO Gaming, which is the convention where this show was being held. If they would have actually on the pre-show told us what is CEO Gaming, take us around the convention,
context,
show us some of the events going on, so maybe that you're somehow connected to it. But they didn't do any of that. This actually goes back a year because last year, Kenny Omega ran a New Japan event at CEO Gaming, and Michael Nakazawa lost to Alex Jabali. So this is actually 2 years in a row this match has happened. Now they're 1-1. Guarantee you this match is going to happen again next year.
Yeah, there'll be a rubber match somewhere at some point, obviously.
So now the CEO of CEO is actually a professional wrestler?
No, he's not.
No, he is not a trained professional wrestler. He's had 2 matches.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, think of him as sort of the guy that wants to be like Shane McMahon, but has like the training of, say, the guy from Arrow. Maybe that much training.
It's like when Vince Russo would get in the ring, or Eric Bischoff get in the ring. Jim Ross had a match in the ring. It's very much along those lines. It's just awful stuff.
I don't like these non-wrestlers getting involved in matches. I don't like it for the most part. There's like 1% of them out there that I can kind of take, but these guys getting involved, I mean, and it didn't add, and like you said, it didn't hook anybody into the main show whatsoever.
But if you want to do this as a dark match for the CEO nerds in attendance,
sure, yeah,
I understand it. Just don't put it on the broadcast.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. All right, let's get to the main card now. Some good stuff to kick things off here. Match with CIMA versus Christopher Daniels. Like I mentioned before, Christopher Daniels, damn near 50 years old now, still going strong. And CIMA, or Shima, I think is the way you pronounce his name. One of these guys from over in China. I mean, fantastic. Both guys look excellent. And Shima getting the win over Christopher Daniels, that was huge.
And Shima's going to face Kenny Omega at Fight for the Fallen. So this was absolutely the right booking. You keep him looking strong going into that matchup against Kenny Omega. He looks legit. He looks like a real threat to Kenny. I'm looking forward to that matchup a lot. Shima's been around forever. He was in WCW, for God's sake.
Yeah. Yep.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Anytime that anybody steps inside of the ring with Christopher Daniels, it is 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
And Christopher Daniels is putting them over.
Yep.
And this was his first singles match in like a year and a half. He looked great in this matchup for being his first singles match in that long.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely. Then going from that to a 3-way women's match here, we had Riho versus Yuka Sakazaki. I don't know if I said that correctly.
You nailed it, man.
Awesome. And Nyla Rose. This match didn't do a whole lot for me, to be perfectly honest with you.
My 5-year-old loves Yuka Sakazaki. She looks something straight out of
like Final Fantasy or
Warriors
something.
video game, or like any anime that you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
Riho looks like a older version of Kairi Sane, and then you have Nyla Rose, who's in there with 2 Joshis trying to keep up.
Yeah,
and I don't necessarily feel like that's necessarily fair to Nyla Rose to really judge her, because on the independent scene, she's working a more Nia Jax like style, and then you throw her in there with Joshi girls in her first 2 matches. I mean, like, how much do I really know about her at this point?
Yeah. So I would say it was a throwaway match, but I mean, it's one of those ones. It honestly didn't do a whole lot for me.
See, and I love the hell out of it, but then again, I've kind of become a Stardom nerd, so I really enjoy Joshi wrestling.
I gotta watch some Stardom. It's been a while.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Then next up, this was an interesting. I didn't really. The setup for this was kind of weird, but we had Adam Page versus Jimmy Havoc, Jungle Boy, and MJF, and this all kind of stemmed from, I guess, some confusion about how the match was going to happen, and Page kept naming off guys, and then it just kind of snowballed into like, well, you're just kind of a match with all 4 of these guys, and some really interesting. Normally, I don't like when there's more than 3 people in a match having a match like that, but these guys they pull it off well, and it doesn't feel WWE-esque at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Carl, if there's one thing that you're going to look at from this show, you have to find MJF's promo before this match.
Awesome. But it should have been on the pre-show.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Should have been on the pre-show, and he should have been going hard on the video game nerds.
It's
on the pre-show.
Absolute money.
Yeah. That would have hooked people into the main show, I think, if you would have placed it in that spot.
When he let out with that whole... I used to like video games too, and then I lost my virginity, and they cut away to this crowd shot of this freaking guy.
Yeah, that was perfect.
It ranks right up there with when Brock Lesnar beat The Undertaker and the black guy that they cut away to that everybody is memed. Yeah. Like, somebody needs to meme this guy because the look on his face. His mom is going to be pissed that MJF said that.
Priceless, just priceless. Yeah. And going from that, I think I'm going to call this probably my match of the evening here. And this is the one guy in this match, actually my first exposure to him, unfortunately, because now I'm going to have to go watch some more of this guy. We had Cody versus Darby Allin. And, incredible match. I have not seen any Darby Allin up until this point, but I was highly impressed. I mean, this guy not only could keep up with Cody, but I mean, just he has a very unique look. He moves very differently in the ring. Just it was interesting to watch him. Like, it was just interesting.
He's evil Johnny Gargano.
I was drawn in, man, and I gotta say there were a couple spots in this match here that I'm gonna point out that I was like genuinely like frightened. There was one where this is apparently, thanks to you, Jargo, you told me about this. This is apparently a regular spot that this nut job does, where he gets thrown into this turnbuckle and goes between the top and middle turnbuckle and just basically just flies through and hits the floor. I thought the guy was dead. And then he does this coffin drop onto the apron, kind of like PCO kind of style, where I was like,
it's
dude,
like the trust fall.
Oh my God.
Kofi Kingston does.
Oh, it's brutal. Like, man, and this guy used to be a skateboarder, which, I mean, I get it now, because, I mean, those guys have a high pain threshold, and that's obviously where it comes from, because that would kill most people.
If you go back and watch some of those old CKY Bam Margera videos that were, like, all the rage, like, 10 years ago.
Yep.
You'll see a very, very young Darby Allin on his skateboard. I've been watching him since then. When he got into pro wrestling, I was so intrigued because, like, I remember watching this kid, and he's like skateboarding on like the roof of a 2-story house, and he goes to jump from like the top part of the roof onto the bottom part of the roof, and the board goes out from underneath of him, and both of them just end up on the ground. And he's like sitting there laughing about it.
Jesus.
Like there's something very, very wrong with Darby Allin, but the thing is, for a guy his size, he moves very, very well. Yeah. All of his offense is very believable, and he hits a lot of it very, very quickly. But most of his matches are him just selling his ass off. He's evil Johnny Gargano. No matter what you do to Darby Allin, you can't seem to kill the kid.
Yeah. So yeah, there's all this speculation about. I think I worded it this way, if I remember correctly, that I don't think there's a need to bring in the actual CM Punk. They got their own version of this guy with a bit of a twist there. He lives the straight edge lifestyle. He even has the drug free thing tattooed on his hands, just like Punk. And the guy is fantastic to watch. And of course, this went to a time limit draw, and I love the way that unfolded with just like that 1 second to go and the referee's hand coming down and not getting to the 3. And then probably the most controversial thing of the evening happened. The Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, or as we're calling him, Sean Spears now, comes out and hits Cody in the head, unprotected. Gruesome. And from what I've kind of heard, from yourself, Jargo, and other sources, that this was supposed to happen, the chair shot, but wasn't supposed to cut him wasn't supposed to cut him at all, right?
It was a gimmicked chair.
Yeah.
And my understanding is what happened, and when you watch the footage, so the chair bends, like the chair gives like it's supposed to, but the back of the chair, the curved part of the chair, clips Cody in the back of the head and gashed him pretty damn good.
Oof. And I've gone on record saying that I think that you could have had the exact same effect in the storyline and everything if you would have just whacked him in the shoulder or in the back or something like that. You didn't have to go unprotected on the head. I know that old school wrestling fans like that and dig that, but I think that they didn't need to go quite that far. And of course, obviously, as we saw, the element of danger is there. And then we saw, unfortunately, that happen. They just didn't need to go that far.
I did enjoy the improv after the chair shot, though, where you see the locker room empties out in support of Cody. Mm-hmm. Everybody's, giving Sean Spears the evil eye. They go to commentary. Commentary has nothing to throw to because this is all on the fly, and this is a very, very serious situation, ladies and gentlemen. And it was handled very, very well. I think there's a lot of people that are saying there's no way that Cody didn't get a concussion out of this thing. I think it's a good thing that the chair was gimmicked because you can see the chair break, right? Like the chair breaks the way it's supposed to. It's the back of the chair that actually caused the cut that resulted in 12 freaking staples. But I mean, no matter what, I don't care if the chair is gimmicked or not. We don't need unprotected chair shots to the head in 2019. Like you said, during the match, Darby Allin is working over Cody's left arm. Yep. The entire match. Everything is going into arm bars and all kinds of like crazy dragon screws to the shoulder and everything. Like, just give me a chair shot to the left shoulder. It would have played into the story of the match. It was a completely unnecessary risk.
I agree. What's your take on unprotected chair shots, Carl?
Well, from what I saw, I mean, that did actually look pretty devastating. I mean, I've been hit in the head with chairs. I've been hit in the head with kendo sticks. I've been hit in the head with 2x4s. I've been hit in the head with tables, stop signs, even like anything that you can think of. I've been hit in the head with, but I always protected myself, and in just the slightest way that had the fans going, "Holy crap! Did he actually just take that, or what?" Right, and I think that in this type of a situation, that could have happened if they wanted something to look devastating as it did. Yeah. It's unfortunate that happened because you're saying now like, oh, it didn't need to happen, and unprotected chair shot, and oh, he got cut open, and oh, this is super bad. But had it gone perfectly, I think everybody would have a different total story to it and go, holy crap, this has just set something up, right? Now,
I don't think so. I think there would still be an outrage for an unprotected chair shot in 2019, knowing what we know about concussion protocol and CTE. I have enough faith in wrestling fans. There would still be this outrage, even if the chair shot would have went exactly the way it was supposed to.
That's good. And you know what? I fully agree. I don't think that unprotected chair shots are needed. No. Everybody knows how to protect themselves. Who has wrestled? Everybody knows how to protect themselves for a chair shot to the head. They know how to do it. Why it wasn't done, I don't know. But honestly, from seeing everything that I saw, I think that going with even taking the chair and doing the shot into the gut and then across the back would have had more effect than an unprotected shot to the head.
Yeah. So going from that to team match that we had here, I'm pulling it back up here. We had the Elite, which is of course Kenny Omega and Mac and Nick Jackson versus the Lucha Bros and the Laredo Kid, who I haven't seen much of either. So it was kind of cool to see him. It was really interesting, the entrance to this, and I think this is a good example of a promotion, especially specific to this show, knowing their audience. Coming out to Matt and Nick came out dressed in Street Fighter kind of attire, which of course fits right into what we're dealing with here. So a great example of them knowing their audience and catering to that, and just a really great by them. Just lots of great spots in this match. Just a good 6-man tag match.
It's a lucha 6-man tag. Like, if this would have happened on AAA, this would have been a AAA main event at any show that they would have done. If you like lucha wrestling, awesome. If you don't like lucha wrestling, there's a lot of other stuff on this show that chances are that you'll like.
Yep, absolutely. So, which actually we're getting to next here, and I love the way that they set this up, at least for myself here, because essentially this 6-man tag match was the main event, and then Justin Roberts came in the middle of the ring and said, okay, that the main part of the show is over now. Now we're going to do this unsanctioned match. And I love that they actually present it in that manner, because typically, at least in the last little while with WWE, that this kind of thing would be put somewhere in the mid-card or something, and they wouldn't hardly even address that it's an unsanctioned match or anything like that. I love the approach there to actually draw the attention to that and actually letting, okay, this is a match. This isn't supposed to happen, and there's no rules or anything like that. I love the whole approach to it. Having said that, though, pretty nuts here. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it was Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela here. And, say what you will about, I know a lot of people aren't Joey Janela fans. Dude, you got to respect the spots and the stuff this guy went through in this match. It was crazy.
I enjoy me some Joey Janela. Carl, have you ever done a death match?
No, I have not.
Thankfully not, because you probably would be here to tell us about it.
I limited myself. I would do hardcore. I was known as the extreme Canadian, but going as far as death matches just was not something that I appealed to. Now, don't get me wrong. I have done matches with barbed wire, and I have done matches with, baseball bat that's got barbed wire around it, right? Yeah. Stuff like that. But tacks, definitely. But never have I gone to the extent of glass shards or those stupid frickin' light tubes. Never have I done anything like that. Having
said that, then, since you've dealt with thumbtacks, have you ever been thrown essentially standing feet first into thumbtacks?
Barefoot.
My bare feet have never been in thumbtacks.
Well, that's what Joey Janela went through, thanks to Jon Moxley.
I noticed that on the little video package that I saw.
Crazy, man.
And
crazy.
You know what? Good for him.
I have never heard blood curdling screaming like that in quite a while. I wish I could find the audio. Almost kind of inserted here. It was like, ah! Nuts.
I had mentioned earlier about some of my friends that were down at the at work with me there talking about things, and this was one of the other matches that they said you definitely have to see. One of my friends, though, was kind of like, you know what, and I'm hearing this from a lot of people online. You've got a lot of people that are hating on Joey Janela. You got people that are loving Joey Janela. Yeah. This friend is not a Janela hater or not a Janela lover. He is more of just a kind of neutral, saying he's good, but like a mid-card level good. I don't see him going anywhere. Main event type of status. That could definitely change. Definitely it could change. But I need to really watch myself some more Joey Janela to really make a educated opinion on it.
But there's always going to be room for guys in the middle. That's the thing that I always tell some wrestling fans I hear that get pissed off when their guy doesn't get pushed all the way to the top. That there's a way that this has got to be. You got your main event talent. Okay, you've got the people at the bottom who can't seem to get a fair shake, and you have your people in between. Not everybody can be a winner and be on top. There has to be these different levels here, and I'll be perfectly fine with him being in that middle and still put on kick-ass matches. I have no problem with that.
For me, Joey Janela he's definitely an acquired taste, right? Okay, but as I watch Joey Janela, he reminds me so much of like a 1995, 1996 Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I see the charisma there. I see the talking ability there. I see where his character can evolve from where it is now. And I think that there is that main event talent inside of Joey Janela 10 years from now. If he lives that long.
Yeah, because he's punching that bump car really fast. But having said that, now, question for you guys, because he does have the beautiful Penelope Ford with him. Is there any way that
not anymore?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
She's gone, eh?
They have split up, and evidently she's with Kip Sabian now. I just found this out like earlier today.
Well, that ruins my theory, because I was going to say, is there a way that they could use her to try and elevate him anymore? But that's out the window now. Bastards.
Savages. I find it hilarious that I don't necessarily want to say that this was a death match, but there was definitely those elements brought into this thing. And obviously, given both of these guys' previous histories with CZW, it was interesting to see how far they would push the envelope inside of this match. I thought it was interesting that in the post-show media scrum with Tony Khan, he was asked if this was going to be part of the show, and he informed the media that, I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't even part of this show. What part of unsanctioned are you not understanding?
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So going from AEW now, we're going to talk a little bit of WWE. Now, this is probably one of the more ridiculous kind of things that I've seen kind of recently, and I almost pissed myself when I saw this. Seth Rollins claiming that WWE is the best wrestling on the planet, and Will Osprey basically putting him in his spot to make him look like a fool. I thought that was great.
Carl, what do you think of this?
This is simply a classic case of you work for me. You need to say something because right now you're the top guy of the company.
Yeah.
We need you to go out there and build this brand. I think that's exactly what it was. I don't think that Seth Rollins believes a word that he said.
I hope not. Oh.
I agree with a lot of that. I think the other thing is what I'm looking at on my television right now with Monday Night Raw in the background. And I see Becky Lynch standing there with Seth Rollins. And I think to myself, Becky Lynch sat Seth down and said, you really need to step up your social media game. And he opened his big fat mouth and just shoved his wrestling boot right down his damn throat. Yeah. And he got owned by like the fifth or sixth important guy on the New Japan card. That's how this came off to me.
Yeah. It just comes off just as
he got owned by Will Osprey.
Yeah.
He got owned by their junior champion. He's not even going at Okada here. Yeah. He's going at the junior champion. Yeah. Like, no disrespect to Will Osprey, but dude, this is punching down for the WWE and Seth Rollins.
It reminded me a little bit too of the Roman Reigns and Tama Tonga kind of scenario too, where he just, you had Tama just respond and just buried Roman's ass too. I go back. I actually have to find that again because he made him look like a fool too. But that's why I'm not a big fan of all this business being done on social media, especially when it starts crossing boundaries with promotions and stuff like that. I think it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I don't think that you need to go there.
I think WWE talent in particular needs to be very, very careful because they're so limited in what they can say. Like, Seth Rollins can't go hard at Will Osprey, and I know that, and you know that, and Carl knows that. But mass amount of people that are following Seth Rollins on Twitter don't realize that Seth Rollins can't come back and be like, listen here, you whiny little bitch.
Yeah.
Like he can't do that. He's the champion for a publicly traded company. Yeah. And these New Japan guys, the second you acknowledge them, they can come at you with everything, man, because they ain't got nothing to lose. They're not going to get fired for calling Seth Rollins out.
No. So in that respect, to me, then it's just like, why even go there then, right? Why
that was the
poke and prod the beast there
forever. They never even acknowledged other promotions.
Yep. But we live in the day of social media, and it would be cool if there'd be some kind of payoff or something with this. But I mean, obviously, we're not going to see a match between Seth Rollins and Will Osprey because, well, we can't.
The solution is Seth Rollins, give your phone to your girlfriend and say, honey, will you handle my Twitter business for me?
Yes. Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So a little bit more WWE stuff. Of course, we're watching, kind of watching. I've got Raw, Kevin in the background, and Jargo does as well. I don't know if Carl does either, but there's this plan. Now, I think that they're implementing it this week, if I'm not mistaken, of doing this deal of where, okay, we're not going to have commercials during matches anymore. How do you even pull this off logistically? Now you're somebody that kind of works production-wise and everything, Jargo. How do you even execute this?
This is so easy. This is not hard.
Mm-hmm.
When you watch a football game, do they cut away from the action in the middle of a drive?
Nope.
When you're watching a hockey game, do they just cut away and go to commercial break for 5 minutes?
Nope.
You just have the wrestling match.
Yep.
The wrestling match goes 12 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
After the wrestling match, you go to commercial.
Yep.
That's all you got to do. Like, this is not hard. They're trying to reinvent the wheel, and there's nothing wrong with the wheel.
Yeah.
Just, format your show right.
Exactly. And I mean, and for a company that's been doing television production for so long, this shouldn't even be really an issue. So to me, it's mind-boggling that this is almost kind of being presented like, oh, Vince has got this big vision. This is something really cool. It's like, dude, you should already have this down pat by now. Not just catching on to it now, 25 plus whatever years later.
The problem is they had this crazy idea years ago that if you go to a commercial in the middle of a match...
What if somebody wins during the commercial?
Well, but here was the idea, though, that you would sit through the commercial break to see the end of the match.
Yeah.
Like, that was the theory. Yeah. And it was stupid then. And we've been doing it for years, so much so that now they literally have no idea how to format a freaking TV show. Thank God we have Eric Bischoff coming in, an executive producer who can sit them down and say, this is how you format this.
Yeah. Because like I just said, what's to say that during the commercial break, let's say if it's theoretically it's Intercontinental title match. What if there's a pinfall and the guy wins during the commercial break? What do they come back and they say, well, during the commercial break, blah, 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 and so won. I'm like, oh, good. Thanks for going to the commercial, ass. I had to censor myself there because I almost dropped one there.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but I know that this whole thing has been talked about and that they're doing this and whatever. And I've seen some different stuff on YouTube that, like they're doing little things with the kids and stuff during commercial breaks in the live audience. Now, is there a match that's going on and then they stop the match halfway through and give them a break while a commercial's going on?
Well, now what the thing is they're obsessed with 2 out of 3 falls matches.
They can't do that with every match, though.
In between the falls. Like on SmackDown last week, we had 2 out of 3 falls matches. I've already seen one on Raw tonight. Like, we're going out of our way to avoid going to commercial break during a match. This is not hard. You backload the half hour with commercials, and that's where you put in promos and vignettes, and you do 2 or 3 commercial breaks in a span of about 10 minutes. Like this is very commonplace. When it comes to halftime, you get 3 minutes of airtime, and then you get a 4-minute commercial break. This is not hard.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, the going with all these 2 out of 3 falls match, I'm definitely not a fan of that. Like they used to be able to get this right. I don't understand. It's like we've taken so many steps backwards now, and now it's like they're trying to fix it, and they're trying to pat themselves in the back, and at the same time and go, "Oh, look how innovative and cool we are now." Oh, I don't know. I don't like.
Holy cow! We just went 12 minutes without a commercial break.
Hooray!
Like every other TV show on the face of the planet.
Yeah. Well, having said that, because we already hinted at it, Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff coming back to the company. Now, is this the magical fix, or is this just, is this just the storyline thing, or I like to think that especially like you said, Eric Bischoff could really, really help things here. But is this more kind of just like a storyline? Okay, that we're going to show you that this is kind of going on, but is Vince still got all the power going on here?
Well, the report is that they both still answer to Vince McMahon. So does anything really change? Carl, go ahead.
If that's the case.
Nothing in this changes then if Vince McMahon still has the final say. I think he needs to kind of let go of the reins a little bit. I understand that these 2 guys were your competitor at one time, and that they almost, one of them at least, almost beat you in the game. We understand that. We get it. Yep. Maybe you need to take a little bit of the expertise that these guys have and let them run things for a little bit to take some pressure off of yourself being Vince McMahon, because we all know he's going 2020 XFL starting up again. He's going to be dedicating a lot more time to that. How much is the product going to suffer if he's putting all his efforts towards something else? Is this possibly a way that he is kind of trying to groom these guys into his thinking to assist him when he's busy doing other projects?
I think so. And to kind of link this actually to the next topic, because it ties right into it here, is this possibly, because there's word that Fox has not been impressed with the WWE programming going into this Fox deal. Now, is this kind of a knee-jerk kind of reaction to, now let's bring Paul and Eric in to try and right the ship here?
I think it's all window dressing. I think this is very
possible.
If this was real, if Vince McMahon was taking a step back and was going to lighten the reins on creative, do you really think he would turn to Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman to come in and run things?
Like you had hinted at there, I would have thought that Hunter would, or that Paul, or whatever you want to call him, would have been the next one in line, correct?
Exactly. If this was a real change inside the company, this would be Triple H. This wouldn't be Paul Heyman, who's already working backstage on creative, and that's well documented, or Eric Bischoff. I think this very well could be a promotion for Paul Heyman inside of his creative position. Yep. As far as Eric Bischoff goes, I think it absolutely ties into this next story that you have here, Joe, with the Fox executives being unhappy. Yeah. One of the things that Eric Bischoff is fantastic at is talking to network executives. This is what Eric Bischoff does. This is literally what he's been doing in all of his years since he left the pro wrestling business. He's pitched television shows to network executives. They just don't happen to have anything to do with wrestling, so none of us are talking about it. Yeah. I think that's really what Bischoff has been brought in for, is to be that liaison between the Fox network and the WWE.
That's a very good point. I don't think I can disagree with you on that.
So it seems as though the WWE and Vince McMahon is just giving us a bunch of smoke and mirrors when it comes to this whole thing, and just kind of making everyone believe that things are going to change when in fact we could just be sitting at the exact same stuff.
To me, here's the thing, like Heyman's been working backstage and creative for months now, like going back to like last August, right? Yeah. So if you liked the build with Becky Lynch, Charlotte, and Ronda Rousey going into WrestleMania, That's Paul Heyman's work. Now, the thing is, it's Vince McMahon's booking. It's still Vince McMahon's decision to say, okay, Paul, I need you to write this, and that. Yeah. And if the idea is shit to begin with, Paul Heyman can only make it smell so freaking good.
Yeah. And could it almost be kind of like almost like a placebo effect? We're bringing Eric and Paul in, and it's gonna look all fine and dandy, and people are just gonna be like, well, these guys are here, so now it's automatically good. I think it almost could have that kind of effect. Now these guys are here. Oh, now things are actually good, even though below the surface it's still the same old stuff.
By the way, in case you missed it because you didn't have the sound on, Corey Graves actually said "holy shit" earlier on Monday Night Raw. Mm-hmm. So if it's in WWE vernacular, I assume that I can use it on Canadian podcasting.
Well, interesting because actually, if you listen to Canadian radio, which I'm assuming you haven't, that they're actually during certain times of the day, that's actually one of the only swears that they actually allow on the air, and it doesn't get bleeped during certain times. So. Yeah.
I've never listened to Canadian radio, but I do enjoy Kenny versus Spenny.
Well, there you go.
I did enjoy that show.
Wasn't that just two guys just beating the crap out of each other all the time, essentially?
Yeah, it was rather entertaining.
It's basically like wrestling, so it still works. So, going from that to kind of an interesting topic here before we go to our Showstopper segment, and this all kind of stemmed from a really interesting conversation that we actually have with that I had with our guest today, with Jargo here, through a Facebook chat, and we were kind of talking about how today there's not really that one kind of awe-inspiring wrestling figure that we watch or we go that really kind of we get that wow kind of moment from, because a little while ago, of course, I had mentioned that I'd finally gotten to watch the Andre the Giant HBO documentary, which again, if you haven't a chance to watch that, go watch that. There, to me, whenever I see anything involving him now, or whether I go back and watch that, or if I happen to see something on Facebook or YouTube about it, I'm immediately drawn back in. It's like Andre was just this wow kind of figure, and it got me to thinking. Now they're just in professional wrestling, there just isn't that kind of character. That one to really kind of inspire awe in the viewer. I don't think that there's anyone around that does that. Still to this day.
Carl?
Are you kidding me? Have you not seen Roman Reigns? Come on. Oh, you're right, though. At this point, there is not.
And I don't see I don't think I even see anybody that you could even get up to that level.
I would just like to point out that I'm laughing for two reasons. Number one, I'm laughing at that comment. And number two, I'm laughing at the fact that Becky Lynch just tapped out Mike Kanellis with the worst looking armbar I've ever seen in my life.
Wow. So double whammy there.
Jeez.
That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny.
But yeah, like I said, all of these years later, Andre the Giant, we still talk about him, and he still inspires awe in the true wrestling fan to this day. I mean, I ended up talking to you for like 45 minutes on Andre the Giant, just like out of nowhere.
I've kind of thought about this,
and I have the same with Carl too. Occasionally,
I thought about this quite a bit the last couple of days.
Yeah.
And when I think of it in like a modern context, like the closest thing that I can come up with, at least for me, is Minoru Suzuki. Like there is just something about Suzuki and his history that like I look under my bed from Minoru Suzuki. That guy is freaking terrifying.
Oh, like, and he crosses genres too, right? So
it's all bullshit. But I just every time I watch a Suzuki match, you gotta wonder just a little bit. Did that motherfucker just snap? Like, is he really making this dude tap out? Because in shoot fights, I've seen Minoru Suzuki tap out Ken Shamrock twice. Yeah. Like, this is a bad freaking dude. And I'm just waiting for that one guy who actually pisses off Suzuki during a match. And, like, Suzuki snaps and just, like, freaks out on the dude and murders him.
Yeah. I think Andre could have been possibly the last person to be able to dictate kind of what happens in a match like that.
Well, I mean, Taker was that person, right? I mean,
To a certain extent, but I don't think that he ever
legacy just eroded so much in the last like 5 years that we don't even think of him in that context anymore.
For me, yes. I think Undertaker possibly could have been somebody to maybe reach that level, but I think, just from WrestleMania, I'll go WrestleMania 30 up until now, just that I won't say that the legacy has been tarnished necessarily, but that whole aura and the mystique has just been slowly declining. And, Andre got to go essentially on top. Things were kind of declining there, but he never really he didn't have that chance, or he never got to that point to where, okay, now he's just kind of going through the motions in the ring, and sullied his career. He essentially went on top.
I was going down the New Japan rabbit hole the other day. They put up this new list on New Japan World, the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling, with a bunch of links to like individual matches. And you go back to like the late 70s, and there's a whole bunch of Andre the Giant versus Antonio Inoki. And like you can just click on it and watch it. And I went down the rabbit hole the other day. It was a really, really good day.
I need to go check those out. I didn't even know those existed.
Good stuff.
All right, guys, we're going to take a bit of a break here, and we're going to come back with our Showstopper segment for this week. And this one's a bit of a doozy. It's a pretty broad, pretty big topic that I've been meaning to kind of get to for a while, and I have two people to talk to about this week. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll be right back, guys.
Independent contractors in the professional wrestling industry, if you're looking for a way to put the power of the media in your own hands, contact Pinned LLC. Pinned LLC is media and marketing for the professional wrestling industry. It's your one-stop, one-click online profile and so much more. With Pinned, you'll receive a full background story, photo gallery, an interview conducted with you, links to all your social media and where you can be booked, and yes, a 60-second custom television commercial all about you. Get more info today. Email pin.biz@gmail.com. That's pin.biz@gmail.com, or click the icon at thegorillaposition.com to get more info about Pinned. Remember, get connected, get booked, get pinned.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Carl Carafel, former professional wrestler in the Northern Ontario and Michigan region. Thank you for stopping by and listening to Turnbuckle Talk. We can be found on social media at TB Talk Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are happy to be part of the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast Network, as well as the Roar Network, as presented by thegorillaposition.com.
All right, guys, Big Joe and Carl Careful, and from the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast, Jargo, back here on Turnbuckle Talk.
I love that I've become like Prince. I'm just Jargo now.
Yep.
Like I don't even need another name.
Share. Just one word.
Yeah. Sting.
Yes. Those are
Both of them.
Those are good names to be associated with.
Both of them.
Right?
Love it.
All right, Carl. Jargo, Showstopper segment for this week here. This is an interesting one and a very broad topic here. I'm really curious to see what will come out of this conversation here. And this is a purely theoretical. Keep this in mind, folks. Could professional wrestling survive without the WWE? Let's start with you, Carl.
I will give a very quick and definitive answer to that question. Could professional wrestling survive without World Wrestling Entertainment? Yes, I think that it definitely could. Given the amount of other smaller promotions that we technically have around right now, whether it be over in Japan, whether it be in China, whether it be in the Philippines, whether it be in Germany, whether it be in North America, in the US, in Canada, no matter where, there will always be professional wrestling available in some aspect. And given the amount of social media that is available today, including Snapchat, including Instagram. So you can now do like Instagram TV. You've got Twitch. You've got YouTube. All of those avenues are available. Yes, I think professional wrestling could survive without the WWE.
What about you, Jargo?
Well, What do you think, Joe? Give me your opinion before I give you mine.
I think that the wording in the question, I think, is really telling, as usually things are when we're getting into these kind of discussions. When we're talking, can professional wrestling survive with the WWE? And I would definitely agree with Carl that professional wrestling absolutely definitely could, just because we have so many great and competitive alternatives. You know, we have New Japan, we have Ring of Honor, we have now AEW. You know, we have all the more than a handful of promotions over in the UK, which are all doing very well and prospering. In Australia, you know, with a friend of yours, Craven, down there in Australia, Jargo, tons of promotions there. I mean, wrestling is thriving and doing very well. There's still this, I think, this idea that we're still kind of living in this WWE bubble, that this is still the only kind of thing around, and it is very much not the case anymore. And I'm really of the belief that if the WWE, God forbid, if it were to, you know, if something happened where the company folded, you know, I think that the industry could still thrive without that. Now, sports entertainment, on the other hand, you know, WWE is really the only ones doing what we would kind of coin sports entertainment. If that died, then sports entertainment would die, but professional wrestling will always live on.
Yep, and I think that's the right answer to the question. Could professional wrestling survive the WWE? It has. And it has since 2001, when the WWE became the only major league promotion in town. In the meantime, it's been underground. You know, it went back to grassroots pro wrestling 101. Yeah. And now here we are almost 20 years later, and we're seeing it finally come to fruition. Those kids that were doing the backyard wrestling stuff, yeah, they run AEW now. I mean, honestly, that's how the Young Bucks started, right?
Yep. And even going back further, that's how Mick Foley started. The guy started off by diving off of his roof onto mattresses and stuff, you know. And these some of these hardcore nut kids they're running the show now.
I mean, it's really
amazing to me.
Not necessarily 2001, but especially it's Canada Day, right? So we can talk about famous Canadians. Yep. Ever since the Chris Benoit thing happened, that's when WWE went really, really PG. We went really, really heavy on the John Cena, and understandably so. All right, they're a publicly traded company. They had a reputation that they had to completely rebuild. We can question whether it was for the betterment of the company or not. Financial figures say yes. Actual figures say no. When you look at attendance and television ratings and actual interest in the company, pro wrestling will survive without the WWE. It's done just fine since that period. You know, that's when we saw Ring of Honor. That's when we saw TNA was at their peak. Now we're seeing the rise of AEW. It's like this cycle where things just happen, man. It's just that we hope AEW becomes a lot more WCW than it was TNA, and how short-lived that company really was.
Yeah, that's a great way to word it. You know, and right now, you know, with WWE, it does seem like, you know, at least they're trying to mix, you know, like I said, we've been saying throughout the episode, we've been kind of watching it kind of in the background as we're recording here. It does seem like they're trying to experiment, and but yet there's still kind of some weird stuff kind of going on at the same time, you know, so there's an attempt to kind of fix things there. But, you know, when it comes to sports entertainment, I got to say that in the bigger scope of things, I am a little worried, you know, that it could eventually go away, but professional wrestling will always be there. And even now, to mention them with Ring of Honor, the NWA seems to be really partnering up with them now. We're seeing a lot of NWA stuff infiltrating into Ring of Honor, which I find really interesting, you know, given that there was a big dump of talent out of Ring of Honor when this whole, you know, all in and all elite stuff started to happen. So, you know, we could see some interesting partnerships certainly happen there, because we know things are kind of on the rocks with Ring of Honor, New Japan as well. So, you know, it's always good to form other new partnerships just in case that stuff doesn't work out, you know. So I will give some Ring of Honor some props there that they're doing some interesting stuff there, but still at the same time they're having issues. So I mean, there's no perfect world out there, but lots of good professional wrestling.
Also, MLW has basically returned from the dead. Impact Wrestling, by all accounts, is moving to Mr. Mark Cuban's network, Access TV, instead of the Pursuit channel. So that's a huge step for Impact Wrestling.
Yep.
So pro wrestling it's always been there, man. And Stevie Richards, Ben Hameen over at hackerhameen.podbean.com Fridays in the locker room.
Yep.
They'll be the first ones to tell you it's the carny business. Mm-hmm. It's like the music business. You get all these record labels and they blow up in the early 2000s, and now that bubble has kind of burst, and you're starting to see the underground music scene start to kind of crumble again. And you're hearing some rumblings over here and maybe some rumblings over there. And the next thing you know, you see a big underground scene happens again, and that's kind of where pro wrestling is right now. It's just the underground is now becoming mainstream with All Elite Wrestling.
You heard the beginning of the episode too. I mentioned Wrestle Circus, a promotion I barely even knew about, and saw the Stomping Grounds thing was giving me. I was like, nope, ain't doing that. And then, found that this show was on, turned on, and then I had a great time, So it's a great time to be a professional wrestling fan, to be a fan of sports entertainment. It's frustrating, to say the very least.
Yeah.
I think it's about the best way I can put it. Would you guys agree?
Oh, I completely agree. But it is nice to see WWE at least attempting to do something, because it's been so long that they've been the only game in town that they've just gotten by with this lack of goal. We don't really need to cater to the fans because the fans don't really matter. All of our money is coming from TV contracts and Saudi blood money, and it doesn't matter if anybody's watching the show or not. Well, now there's legit competition once again, and we're seeing the rise of New Japan. We've got Impact Wrestling, MLW, everything that's going on inside the pro wrestling scene, and WWE's feeling it to the point where most of the diehard fans have turned against them. All that's left is the casual viewers. So you're seeing this huge influx of TV ratings where they're up this week, they're down this week because, Donald Trump was talking on that Tuesday, so SmackDown ratings went down 500,000 people. Like, that's how casual their viewers have become.
And to kind of put it into perspective for you, we're getting close to SummerSlam. I won't say that I'm not interested in SummerSlam at all, but the big things that are on my radar right now aren't SummerSlam. It's the G1 and it's All Out and Fight for the Fallen. Those are the main ones that are on my radar, especially the G1. SummerSlam, it's an afterthought. I'll watch it if I get a chance to, because I haven't heard anything really about
we're
that.
We're getting closer to NFL season, and then what happens? With the ratings already in the toilet, what happens when Monday Night Football starts back up?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
SummerSlam is happening just down the road for me, literally. Like I'm like probably an hour and a half away, and I have no desire to go watch it. Takeover would be cool to see, but I'm more likely going to go see probably the Ring of Honor show that's coming in late August. I'm more likely to probably go to that. To be
I feel like NXT is even starting to suffer though,
because there's a trickle down effect that's definitely happening.
People are starting to realize that there's no point in investing in these characters in NXT because they're just going to go to shit as soon as they get to Monday or Tuesday. Yeah. So why do I even bother to care about what's happening on Wednesday?
Yep, it's hard to disagree with you, and it's definitely starting to happen.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that about wraps up for this episode. But before we go on this Canada Day here, again, thanks to Jargo from America for coming on the show today. Much appreciated. Let us talk about our sponsors before we head off.
We have now 3 amazing sponsors for us. First off, our newest. If you live in the Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario area, please make sure that you go and check out Silly Rabbit Vape Shop down on Queen Street, Sault Ste. Marie. Tell them that Big Joe and Carl Carafel from Turnbuckle Talk sent you in there, and they will give you a discount on juice and hardware for your vape. Sticking with the vape theme, let's talk about HypeCityVapors.com. Go and check them out for some amazing flavored e-juice. Use promo code JKPodcast and get 15% off your entire order. And we cannot forget about our friends over at collarandelbowbrand.com, founded by Al Snow. That's right, former professional wrestler and current owner of OVW, Al Snow created this brand for us. I am not sporting my hat today, but I am sporting my Collar and Elbow Canada shirt for Canada Day. Thank you to Collar and Elbow Brand for everything that you do for us. Use our promo code JKPodcast. Get 10% off your entire purchase, including any clearance merchandise.
Absolutely. And of course, to listen to the podcast, you can find us on Podbean, on Google Play Music, on iTunes, and all those other podcatchers out there. And of course, we are powered by thegrillposition.com and a proud part of the Roar Network, and presented by the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast Network as well. Now, before we do go, if for those of you who are maybe new to the podcast, Jargo, tell us a little bit more about what you do outside of the Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast Network.
That's pretty much all I do. It has consumed my life at this point. Between the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network as well as the Locker Room Mondays, hackerhameen.podbean.com. Tuesdays, HTM Sports with myself and my favorite Huckleberry, Rick Vickery, at twitch.tv/Hitting the Marks. We do the show live and video there, and then the audio is uploaded to the HTM Podcast Network, available at hittingthemarks.com. Search Hitting the Marks on your favorite podcast listening device. You can find me across all social media platforms at NotJargo, although chances are I'm not going to talk to you. I have so many weird people hit me up these days, man. Strange people. And it's like, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I'm too busy watching wrestling.
Absolutely. And since in the background, there was a match with Carmella. If she would have won, I was thinking about playing a 7-second dance break, but since she didn't win, we were going to forgo that, thankfully.
Blocked.
All right, guys. That wraps up for this week. We will see you guys on the next one.
See you real soon.
Blocked.
It's me, it's the art of B to B. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all of our other shows. We have weekly content, especially lit up by the flagship show, Hitting the Marks Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can find that all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.